Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to the Tennishead YouTube channel. I'm Stephen Boughton, your host. And as we're now in the full swing of the clay season, we're going to take a look at Rafa Nadal's historic 13 French Open titles as we head toward his attempt at his 14th Grand Slam at that tournament alone, which is just crazy. We're going to take a look back at his historic victories, how he got started, just some of the different important milestones in his career at that tournament, and take a deep dive into it. So, welcome to Tennishead. Thanks for joining us here, and let's get into it. Thanks again for joining us here, folks. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos from Tennishead, and also click the links below. As you know, Tennishead is the world's leading tennis magazine, but we have a virtual club as well. So if you join the club, you get the magazine, obviously. This is the latest edition with Naomi Osaka on the front. But you also get a head-to-toe ASICS tennis gear. You get videos from the likes of Boris Becker on coaching, what it was like to coach Novak Djokovic, etc. Lots of perks. Click the links below to go check that out. All right, so we're going to take a look at Rafa Nadal's historic career performances at the French Open. That is covered in detail in one of the articles in the latest issue of Tennishead magazine. Like I said, pick it up. The article goes deep into the different years he's had at the tournament, the different significant wins, and we're going to start at the beginning, as it only makes sense. So at the beginning, Rafa Nadal won, obviously, the 2005 French Open as we know it. He was actually ranked high enough to participate in the 2003 and 2004 tournaments, but he had to pull out due to injuries. Obviously, Rafa throughout his career has had to deal with a lot of injuries and play through that adversity, and still amazingly won 13 French Opens. At the 2005 tournament, he entered as the 5th ranked player in the world after basically sweeping the clay tournaments before it and leading up to the French Open. Years after his first victory there, he looked back on that victory and said, "When I won it for the first time here, in the moment, it was the most important day of my career. After that victory, I went back to my hotel and I said, okay, I won the most important thing I can win in tennis, so then I'm just going to with less pressure and more calm the rest of my career." But the real thing is, it was the complete opposite. Every year you play with more and more pressure. And that's a funny quote because, he thought that at the beginning of his career. He probably didn't think that he was going to go on to win 12 more French Opens alone. And obviously every year he comes in as the expected favorite. The betting odds on him to win are just, they're so good. Probably higher than it is for any other single athlete coming into a tournament like that. So the pressure is huge on Nadal, and he still performs year after year after year, which is absolutely amazing. So after his amazing start, his first ever tournament at the French Open, winning it, the first teenager to win a Grand Slam since Pete Sampras did, he went on to then instate himself as the absolute king of clay, winning the French Open for the next 3 years in pretty amazing fashion. In 2006, beating Djokovic in the quarterfinals and Federer in the final. In 2007, beating Djokovic in the semifinals and Federer in the final again. In 2008, beating Djokovic in the semifinals again and Federer in the final for a third time in a row. This time, both of those matches in straight sets. So he was just clear and above the best player on clay, and especially at the French Open. So that run of 4 titles in a row just set him up as the absolute king of clay. So in 103 matches at the French Open, Nadal's only had 2 recorded losses. One was a withdrawal, which counts as loss, but it's not obviously really a loss. Those 2 losses come in. The first one was in 2009 in the 4th round against Robin Soderling. Now, Nadal, after the match, did not cite any physical issues, but it came out kind of later that it possibly was a factor. And him and Soderling actually had some history after Soderling was mocking him the year before at Wimbledon for picking his shorts between points. So Soderling came into this with maybe a bit of a mental edge, but he also played some of the most amazing tennis we've ever seen on the clay, just mashing the ball, hitting through the court, and really overpowering Nadal in that match, which we had not seen before. Then the second loss that Nadal ever faced at the tournament is at 2015 in the quarterfinals against Djokovic. While Nadal was in one of the worst slumps of his career, honestly, at the time, it was not a surprising loss based on the form that Djokovic came in with, playing so well, and the form that Nadal came in with, which was quite the opposite. So it's just an amazing stat. 103 matches, 2 losses, 2 real losses, unbelievable. That's a record that will probably never be broken. Do you think that record will ever be broken? Do you think there will ever be somebody else who dominates a single tournament like the way Rafa Nadal has at the French Open? Let us know. So after losing in 2015 and having to pull out of the tournament in 2016, it had been a 3-year gap since Nadal had won the French Open coming into the 2017 tournament. But Nadal, as all champions do, and like Federer was doing in the same year, made a comeback in 2017, and it was highlighted by his amazing victory in the 2017 French Open, where he went through the entire tournament without losing a set. It was also, out of his 13 French Open titles, it was his fastest title, where he was only spent 12 hours and 5 minutes on court. So he came back with a vengeance to regain that French Open title, playing amazing tennis, especially because people thought throughout his career he wouldn't have a long career based on how many injuries he had and how hard he played and the physical nature of how he played on court. But he proved the doubters wrong, like all the GOATs have, and he won 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 French Opens to run it up to an amazing 13 titles. So what do the other pros say about Nadal after he's been so clearly ahead of everyone else on the surface and at the French Open specifically? Federer said after his loss to him at the 2019 French Open in the semifinal, "There is nobody who plays remotely close to him. I don't even know who I need to go search for to go practice with somebody who plays like him." He was, it's just a testament to how Federer's lost all 6 times they've played at the French Open, and it's just a puzzle that is impossible to figure out, it seems, for basically anyone. But it's, coming from one of the other GOATs, Federer, that's a pretty interesting quote there. From John Isner, who lost after being up 2 sets to love against Nadal in the 2011 tournament, said, "I haven't seen tennis like that ever. That's why he's the number 1 in the world and one of the greatest players ever." So such high praise from his fellow players, but it makes sense when he's just had such an unbelievable record at the tournament and just exerted so much dominance over these guys. He gets ultimate respect from his fellow players. A couple quick stats of Nadal's dominance at the tournament. Nadal has won 13 French Opens. That puts him at the top of the most that any player, man or woman, has won at any single Grand Slam. The next 2 are Margaret Court at 11 Australian Opens and Novak Djokovic at 9 Australian Opens, and then Federer at 8 Wimbledons. So just absolutely amazing. This is another amazing stat. Out of Nadal's 100 wins at Roland Garros, 81 have been in straight sets. Only 2 have gone to 5 sets, and he won both of those. So just absolute efficiency. So many players just can't even get their foot in the door when they play him. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you think makes Nadal so dominant on the surface. Is he going to win his 14th French Open this year at Roland Garros, which takes place in about a month? Again, you can get all the details I talked about in this video in the latest episode of Tennishead Magazine. The article's there. It has a lot more details, a lot more stats. So get into it. Check out the links below for all the Tennishead content that you can get around. And thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.